All right. My name is Nathaniel Pruitt, and I'll be presenting on Topgolf Callaway Brands Corporation, their comparison with Acushnet and Dave & Buster's Corporation, um, those ratios between those three companies, the projections of Topgolf Callaway Brands Corporation, and their current percentages. All right, so Topgolf Callaway, they in the open market traded on stocks. They compete with pretty much only Acushnet. Their major competitors being TaylorMade, PXG, Ping, and Strixon, all aren't on the open market, but they still are competitors and still have pretty much the same capacity and impact in the golf world. Topgolf just does a better job at bringing consumers to one site that Acushnet or that Topgolf owns. Sorry, whereas TaylorMade specializes in clubs, just as Callaway does. Callaway just might be more towards the middle of the tier, depending on who you ask. All right, let's get into it. The statement of operations for Callaway, their last 3 years, they've done pretty well. One of the themes of this first half of the presentation is going to be, kind of the average that Callaway stays at. They don't do too bad at making money. They do go up in revenues and profit, but it's nothing extravagant. They're not making crazy tides there. So their net income over the last few years has gone down, but later you'll see that their assets on hand are actually pretty high, and they're a growing company. They're making more. If we move down here to the balance sheet, we could just see that the dollars and millions are just going up, especially since 2023. It's almost tripled, and even in 2024 to 2025, that number's gone up significantly from 1,600 to all the way to 5,900. If you can see my cursor here, and their total assets have about stayed the same. So, all in all, they're doing really, really well. Later on, we get down to their statement of cash flows. They do a good job at moving things around. Yeah. All right, and now we are at Acushnet. So Acushnet, this is kind of where it gets good. Acushnet, pretty similar numbers and similar like steadiness of company-wise as Topgolf Callaway. They relatively make the same profit every year. They're not going crazy, but it's just such a lucrative business to be in. Their balance sheets here, like I said, everything pretty much stays the same on average year to year. 24 to 25, we see $3,000 difference, $1,000 difference, and these are in the six-figure ranges. 25 to 30 here, 25 here, so on and so forth. Statement of cash flows is very similar. Gone down a little bit, but I mean, it went up $3,000 from 23 to 24, and then down 13 in 25 for net income. But overall, they're making pretty good things. They're adding to property. So Acushnet, trying to be a competitor in the space of Topgolf. Just buying property is just going to be that big debt that you're looking at when you're getting a mortgage. That's for anyone, even the big companies. And Topgolf and places like it, their competitors, Full Swing, and etc. They just buy such large amounts of land in typically the middle of the city to attract consumers. So their biggest debt, as you're going to see, especially between Acushnet and Callaway, is the land and the debts in that land, which is an asset, but until paid off. All right, now we get to Dave & Buster's. Like I said at the beginning of this, Acushnet is pretty much the main competitor to Callaway, Topgolf, just because at the beginning one of the main competitors is Titleist, and Titleist is a well-recognized golf brand that Acushnet owns. So trying to insert into that space, similar to what Topgolf is doing with their company, and they own Callaway, which is just a competitor with Titleist. It's just really, it's really hard to insert yourself in here. So Dave & Buster's is probably one of the closest things you could get to Topgolf and Acushnet that's traded on the open market. It's an entertainment center, arcade, bowling, almost anything you could think of, honestly. But very similar in terms of apparel, merchandise, experience. Very, very similar. If you wanted to go out one night, you easily could choose between these two and have a very similar experience and the same amount of fun. On the other hand, with Dave & Buster's, it does not seem to be going too well for them. Their statement of operations shows a rapid decline in business over the last couple of years. Their revenues are staying the same. However, they're just they're not doing a good job at managing everything. Looks like the lost debt on refinancing here at $670,000. It's just it's causing the numbers to go red. They're in the negative in 2026. So trying to flip that around to something like 2024 would be beneficial, just so they're making a good profit. And we'll get into that with the ratios and the percentages when we do that, and you'll see the major difference between all three. Same thing here when you're looking at the statement of cash flows, just that loss like we saw in that last tab. Their net cash has gone down as well, probably about $75 million over the last 3 years. Just not what you'd want to see. Still a good business. When we're looking at the competitor ratios, this is kind of what I was saying at the beginning when I was talking about averages. We look at Topgolf, and it's really impressive to see their numbers aligned with the industry average. They are a large part of the industry. So in a lot of their numbers, they are right at the average or above. A lot of their profitability ratios are a little bit below. That's just because of those mortgages. They're paying so much in land that you lose that. But in activity and turnover, they do well at staying below what you need to be below and above what you need to be above. They're earning interest in relatively conservative markets, so they're not doing bad. They're definitely doing well. They're running their business well. And compared to their competitors, I mean, if you look at Dave & Buster's, they're just kind of blowing them out of the water. When we get to the percentages of what, Topgolf owns, their cash and cash equivalents has gone up over the last couple of years. Same thing with their, Same thing with their assets and continued operations. Just over time, those mortgages get paid down. That's, like I said, one of the biggest things. All the equipment that is there on the land needs to be kept up with maintenance and everything like that. So paying down that mortgage is really important, especially if you're liable for a lot of maintenance on a lot of different pieces. You'll see here in 2024, they had 81% in other current assets, and it looks like they went down. That's probably because they expanded. It's probably because brain fart. They expanded, so when you take on more debt, you lose those current assets, as you own them, but you still owe on them. Their statement of operation percentages, their cost of sales is a little high, but their margin's pretty good, a little over, close to 40%. Or a little over 40%, sorry. But then their operating expenses kind of eat into that. So their net income over the last couple of years has been a loss. But paying on those mortgages is, again, like I said, a big detriment to what they do. But once they're free and clear of those, it's just money for them on the other side. So their total current assets change, this is really important, has gone up significantly. This is what I touched on in the beginning on their balance sheets. Their percentage change is incredible. I mean, look at that difference. 4,300 and 270% And total current assets change is just incredible right here. But look at that hit that it's taken on property, plant, and equipment. Yeah, the cost of running a business. So the quicker they get those paid down, the quicker they're in the green, and the more they make, because their margin is just going to expand so much. So it's important for them to keep growing, get their name out there, so people stay invested in that part of the company. Your statement of operations. This isn't a great number over here, all these negatives, but once we get into the tax provision benefit, they're doing pretty well. Same thing over here, 23 to 24 to 25. I mean, it's just a great change. And then their projections are really good. Like I said, when we were doing the ratios and the ratio averages for all the competitors, it's really cool to see that Topgolf Callaway, since they are just such a big influence on the community of golf and consumerism for entertainment, it's just a very active thing. So if you can get people involved in Topgolf, the actual brand, then you can get people involved like your products and your apparel, such as Callaway, which sells anything from shirts to clothing to golf club usages, golf balls. Like, their merchandise can just be easily marketed where they're at. So their expenses on like marketing and stuff like that. If you bring people into Topgolf, you could market Callaway. If you bring people into like a Callaway club or a Callaway shirt, you could somehow fit Topgolf in. So the marketing gets a little bit easier for that. All that to say, their projections are pretty good. They're projected to go up in net income, just based on the way they do business. It's going well. Their balance sheets, they are expected to go down as more they pay off their loans and their mortgages. You just have more cash to work with. I mean, your income's your greatest asset, so the more money you pull in and you could get that debt paid off, the better money you'll make. And then their statement of cash flows, their projections, they're going to be pretty healthy. They just, as long as they stick to paying off debt and decreasing the liability on the business, it's just all green for them on the other side. I think that's it. Pretty much all my research was from SEC.gov and the Edgar page. Had a lot of help. Had a lot of help from the textbook. Trying to understand all this, and there's still some of it I don't understand, but it was really interesting to do this assignment. I think it was kind of being thrown into the deep end, but to learn a lot. So that's it. All right.